welcome back to an Onkruid video, to an unedited Soulstone Survivors video, and to a video where we discovered the chaoswalker. We unlocked him because we completed one of the endless cycles last time around. I presume he doesn't have an upgraded weapon, no, but we can add some runes to his kit. It seems like he's going to be all about chaos. So what are we gonna pick for our runes? Let's go for the game changer one, which we always like. And I would like to combine chaos with some blast and some arcane. Let's go for that. A blast arcane chaos build, easy enough. On the frozen wastelands with all the curses active of course, not even meant to do that, but it worked out quite nicely in the end. Just like everything in life does, always, all the time, you can trust on that. What is our ability? Chaotic missile. A chaotic missile forward, causing a random amount of damage because it's a chaos time. There is a 50% chance that the missile will come back to you. Alright, so basically a missile that can deal a whole heap of damage or not that much damage at all. It can come back to us and it applies a negative effect. Doesn't seem like the most potent skill from the start. Maybe if it gets a whole lot of multicast, it can really stack up some negative effects on the enemies, but let's try and focus this build also on just applying a whole lot of negative effects. Things like fragility, things like hypothermia, things like being dazed, all that good stuff. How have you guys been doing? I've been doing fine. And this is a banish if I've ever seen one. Poison. What is going to be happening, by the way, is that this is going to be just a run until the end and not an endless mode run. First of all, I don't have endless time this morning. I still need to take a shower before I head off to work. Second of all, I just want to complete this curse level, you know. Chaos Golem, Power Blast, Disoriented. Disoriented is another negative effect that we can apply. Let's try and head for, or let's try and build ourselves in a way that we shoot everything in front of us, but not just missiles, you know. I want broader projectiles to be fired from my character. Can't go wrong with an attack speed upgrade, of course. That's always very nice. Yesterday at work, it was quite an intense day all of a sudden. Normally I had my first intake planned, and it was the first intake, so I had to follow with the main psychologist, the main therapist that is actually working there, Doom. I didn't have to have that much input of my own, so I would just, take notes and stuff. Magic missiles, also in front of me, and applying brittle. Sure, that fits in nicely with our build. And then all of a sudden in the afternoon, disaster struck. One of our frailty, one of our, not volunteers, but one of our interns encountered something in her personal life, I think, because I don't know what it was about and I didn't ask it because it's none of my business, but either way, she was kind of under the weather for a second. She really felt down and she wanted to go home. She didn't want to do anything anymore, so I guess it's probably going to be something. I see vortex at a random location. Arcane sparks move almost randomly. Direction you're aiming at, that's what we like. We like to aim at the direction. Yeah, beautiful. That fits in with our build nicely. Our build of, let's call it the Shoop the Whoop build, because it's just us firing a whole bunch of shit out in front of us. Either way, all of a sudden, her intake conversation that she had planned on her own, those people were just sitting there in the waiting room. And well, I don't know if you know, but sitting somewhere in the waiting room is not the best approach to having a nice day. Not many people like that. So there had to be a quick decision made of like, hey, who's gonna take over this intake conversation, and we need to do it fast. And I was thinking for a second, because I mean, like, it's not necessarily an arcane disc that is bound to you in the target direction. So it appears that it's also beautiful, and it applies the negative effect, so it ties into our build even deeper. And I did that thing about I talked about earlier about getting out of my comfort zone and stuff like that, and I exactly did that. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. After, I mean, whoa, that was a lot of damage. After doubting myself for a little while, because, well, I had no idea what the case was about, what the actual person in front of me was coming there for. But then again, I thought that's exactly what an intake is most of the time about, to figure that out precisely. So it all worked out fine in the end. I also had some help from an amazing colleague, another intern, and she really astounded me. She asked the all at your position, lightning projectiles, arcane overload is around us. Bloodlust would also be nice. Let's go for bloodlust for now, but if we find something that better fits our build in the future, we will go for that. And yeah, she really astounded me because she asked all the right questions at all the opportune moments. Exactly when I wrote down my next question, like, hey, I want to ask about this now because we have no information about this, she just asked it, and that happened 3 times in a row. We work in Google Docs and our workspace, so it's a document where multiple people can work in at once. And I wrote into that document like, damn girl, get out of my head, because I thought she was working in it with me as well, but it was actually not the case. She was working in a separate document because she saw me already typing in that first document, and she didn't want things to get confusing. Either way, I was writing things in there like, damn girl, get out of my head, or great question, or things like that, just to spruce, to encourage her a little bit, to make sure that I remembered also when I was typing up the report afterwards to tell her like, hey, very good job right there, man. And it feels weird to do that because less than a year ago, that was me. That was me in her position trying to learn the ropes of intake conversations, and they had to encourage me if I said something correctly. And yeah, it's crazy how quickly life can go after you graduate from college, you know? All of a sudden, it's you that's right there, and that's having the lead, that's in charge. But I am really glad that I actually decided to take that intake conversation up as a task and not let it pass by and let someone else do it. Stepping out of your comfort zone, getting uncomfortable, exploring new things, being impulsive. It's all things I have been working on for a while in my life, and right now it's all coming together, you know? It's really reaping, I'm reaping the benefits. I'm reaping what I sowed, but in a good manner. I'm having the beneficial effects and lighten my mood and my days of the change in lifestyle, and I am loving it. Para-pa-pa-pa. I feel like we've mentioned McDonald's or mentioned that little jingle in the past 15 episodes, and that ties into another subject I would like to talk about, a subject from a podcast I listened to a while ago, from the Nerdland podcast by Lieven Scheire, a very well-known Dutch, well, his language is Dutch, but he's actually Belgian, an engineer, scientist, let's keep it as scientist, and his crew, and they talked about audio logos, and that there was a contest for Wikipedia. They wanted someone to design an audio logo for them rather, and an audio logo is not something like a jingle, it's not something like para-pa-pa-pa, I'm loving it, because that's like more for commercial use. No, an audio logo, the most famous one, is dum-dum. And I think my impression of that audio logo is quite okay. I think you should be able to recognize it, but if you didn't, that's Netflix. Whenever you start up Netflix, you get that sound, and that is their audio logo. It's the same as what we're more used to, a visual logo, where you immediately recognize the brand and what they stand for, and you immediately associate a bunch of things with them, but then in audio form. Why has this come up now as an important... They're working on the neighbors' radiation, on the neighbors' heating system. So if you hear some more of that noises, I'm sorry, but I stand my ground. I'm not editing this video. You can suck my dick. Either way, why is that so important now? Those audio logos. That is because, well, a lot of people that are visually impaired and have troubles with seeing and therefore reading are now using this reading software that reads everything that's on your screen for you. And because the online world and the online world of reading and looking at web pages has become more and more focused on listening to stuff, listening to people talk about what is actually on your screen instead of you reading it yourself, they want audio logos as well. For example, whenever a person like that looks up something on Wikipedia, the audio logo would just beam up like bim bim bim. That's my entry into the contest, by the way. You can write the check afterwards, and you can just deposit it in my name, in the Onkruid name in the bank, and that's fine. I'll give it to you one more time, nice and clear, with some Soulstone Survivors sounds in the background. Listen carefully. Ding ding ding. There we go. And now you know. Okay, I just looked up a Wikipedia page, and I am in that article right now. And then you can have your program read it. I had one of those. Well, I don't know. It's hard to call him a friend. That sounds really mean, but I would consider him a friend, but I don't know if he would consider me a friend. At least there was this guy in my class in uni, in my auditorium, he was in my year, that was also very much visually impaired. he had a rare genetic disease that made it impossible for him to see almost anything actually. So he also needed someone, pardon me, to bring him to class for most classes, and I did that sometimes, or I brought him home after class, like just hooking into his arm and guiding him through the dangerous streets of Leuven. And I know for a fact that he also used such programs to have a voice in his computer read his webpage to him. So maybe in the future he will hear ding ding ding. I don't even remember if that's exactly what I did. It kind of sounded like those little bells they have on a hotel counter where you are checking in at 4 in the morning and you're annoyed that there is not a worker there immediately, even though it's 4 in the goddamn morning and they're probably just having a nap in the back rooms. Not that kind of back rooms, like the actual just a room in the back where they can chill for a second. Can't help but notice, by the way, that this run is slow as dicks. I presume it's partly the curses, of course, because that makes it harder, but it's also this character. I think this starting ability is not that well fitted to be a starting ability, I believe. I hope that well, I mean, it's fine. Not everybody has to have like a very overpowered starting ability. It's not that that's the case. But I hope that when they introduce the upgraded weapon for this character as well, they might change it up a little bit. You know, maybe like a Chaos Storm, where it's like the upgraded Pyromancer, but then with the Chaos effect, so that you can really apply a whole bunch of debuffs all at once. Which is still something we are doing right now, but not in high enough numbers to actually have an amazing impact, I think. Now Bleed has been added onto the list of debuffs we apply though. Maybe that changes up things a little bit. It's not like we're struggling, and I feel like our damage is fine, but it's just not instant damage, and that's more what we're used to here in the world of Soulstone Survivors. Just having a blast, and therefore also blasting enemies away with bombs and missiles and firewalls and glaciers and meteors. No, this is more like, hey, I touched you, in 15 years you will die. Which would still be a scary sentiment to have to carry around. If somebody told me right now, like, hey, by the way, in 20 years, 15 months, that would be 21 years there. In 20 years, 5 months, 7 days, and 8 hours, you will just die. You will drop that to the ground. My life would probably change. Quit my job, get into YouTube full time. No, that's probably not realistic, because in 20 years, well, to survive 20 years, I will still need a lot of money. So I would just probably continue my job nice and easily. And you know what sucks about my job right now? And this is controversial because of course it's not all about the money, but I do need to make a livelihood. I'm still working as a volunteer at the moment. But because of that impulsive intake conversation, I did the full intake procedure, which normally would bring in big money. Bring in like 90 euros in an hour because of all the costs associated with an intake procedure, which is a fee I'm ashamed of, and that's not to lash out at my workplace, because that is the fee that it is just in general. Those are the general prices, but I think that our job is a bit too expensive for our clients. That's a controversial opinion, and I don't have a better solution, because we do of course need to get paid and stuff, and we did study 5 years and we wrote a master thesis and stuff, so I guess we deserve some income. Either way, that's a discussion for another video. But yeah, because I'm still just a volunteer, I'm still only gonna see about 4 euros from that intake conversation probably. And that's sad. It's kind of sad, but it's not sad at all. It's still also me practicing a bit, so maybe it wasn't the most perfect intake conversation that the center has ever seen, so I guess I should pay them for the learning opportunity. Also not true, but they do provide a lot of learning opportunities, which is really great. The boss also wrote her own book recently, and I've been reading a bit in that when I have some downtime at work, and there's some interesting stuff in there on how to work with children, which is definitely something I still need to learn a lot about. One of the colleagues is also going to show us, like me and the new volunteer, like some of the games they play to be creative in therapy and to really open up the doors to therapeutic tasks without having to verbally delve into discussions and stuff, because of course with children that's harder sometimes. The person from the intake conversation yesterday though was very mature. It was she was only in high school, but she talked like I was talking to an 18 or 19-year-old. Really, it was impressive, very impressive at that. It was a blast. I keep saying that it was a blast, but no, it was interesting. and it seemed like a very interesting case for me to pick up because she also had some existential questions. But sadly, that one colleague, well, sadly, I mean, I completely agree if she wants to do that. That one colleague that actually went home was like, you know, I do want to take up this case further because it really, really interests me. So if it's okay for you, I will take over the trajectory that we will start up with her from now on again. So probably I'm not gonna be present in the sessions with that client. The other person that took the intake conversation with me is probably gonna be present, and I'm gonna allow her, not that I'm above her or anything, but I'm gonna allow her to do so because my schedule will probably be filled up automatically in the future fast enough. I mean, for all the shit talking I did about this build, it is a very, very potent boss killer. All the negative effects just stack up on those lords, of course, and their health bars get diminished rather quickly. The Usain Bolt of health bar diminishing. That was it. That was this little run. Our little run with the Chaos Walker. I'm glad we discovered this guy. I don't know how I'm gonna play with him in the future because I feel like there's some untapped potential somewhere that I'm missing. But at least we completed this map's curses as well. In the next episode, the Dungeon of Despair is up for grabs with all curses, and then we will probably go back to the first map and start working on that second level. Still so much to do, still so enjoyable for me. I'm sorry if the commentary this time was a bit lackluster in some shapes, but my nose is kind of blocked and I don't know what's happening to me, so it was kind of hard for me to talk a little bit. So please show your support, like, subscribe, suck my asshole, eat my dookies, and also ask me where my dookie go. To respect points if you get the reference. I'm rambling. See you in the next one. Bye bye.